Addo Akufu, the president-elect of this year's 2020 presidential election. We have Alhaji Frimpong here. He is the General Secretary of the National Democratic Party. Alhaji, you performed poorly in this election. Why?
Well, you don't say we performed poorly. We did not. The issue is that we played a role, and that's simply the nature of our politics. Normally, you need some measure of you need to carry out some measure of activities, and we fulfilled a role of what I call pluralism, which is the very foundation of democracy. We spiced up the process, and you go into a contest with a lot of expectations. As far as we are concerned, I think we had played a role, more particularly in making sure not only for, let's say, carrying the day as being declared, let's say the winner, but rather expectations that has got a lot of factors, in fulfilling the peace that we need, in guiding people, in the political process, and so on and so forth. On that score, I think we've played our part. And contrary to general expectations, people think that the so-called smaller parties, we are not playing a role. I say no. The issue is that without us, even the duopoly that we have been some kind of evil or some kind of a disaster. It is what we do, together that moderates the system.
Okay, so finally, for me, what next for the NDP?
Certainly, we think we step up our actions, in the set goals that we have. Don't forget that, we are coming from a camp, more particularly, that had influenced, the running of the Fourth Republic, and more particularly the spouse of the late president. We do not have to sit back at all. We make sure that at least we continue, in our resolve to make sure that at least the vision, of the late president through, his spouse, continues to be the driving force of the Fourth Republic.
Right. Thank you very much. Now, I must say that the political parties here present are signing the declaration of presidential election results. And it is important to note that the NDC rep are not here to sign. I have seen the NPP sign. I've seen the Ghana Freedom Party, the LPG, CPP, PNC, and the other party all appending their signature to the declaration form, not the declaration of presidential election results, national summary sheet. And so it is important to note that just as the Electoral Commission was wrapping up with the figures with regards to the presidential election, the two reps for the NDC who had been in the National Coalition Center, that is Rojo Metsupnuno, and also Dr. Michael Pesawite, exited the National Coalition Center shortly after the Electoral Commission moved to the Conference Center to declare Nana Addo Akufu as the president, the winner of this year's election. Now, the PNC is here. Just a word from you. You satisfied with the process?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
You're okay with it?
Yeah, I'm very, very
happy with
very happy
the votes you secured?
Oh, yes. No, well, for the voting, we need to do more work. But as we come to the declaration of the results and those things, I can see this is they're fantastic as compared to the previous election that we had. There were no long queue. 3 minutes, people can cast their vote and go. I don't see anything wrong. Everything was okay.
Okay, so finally, what next for the PNC? Because the accusation that you go to sleep after every election, then you resurrect just a year before the main election, and all over the place, it appears the PNC as in comatose.
Oh yeah, you see, we can see next 4 years' time. We are going back to work hard to see how best we can, work towards to bring back to the PNC live because, I mean, there were no time. If you see the time that we had our Congress, it was too short. I mean, besides, we have to work hard to make sure that you file a lot of candidates and then raising money to file candidates and those things. It was not easy for the PNC. I mean, besides raising money to run this campaign was not another headache.
So you didn't have money to run?
No, we ran money. We had money to run, but I am saying, but it's not easy like the biggest party. So all those things is counted. So we are.
That has led to your business.
Yes, but we are hoping coming 2020 we can work.
Let me speak to the campaign chairman of the governing NPP, Peter McMeno. Mr. McMeno, what worked for you in this election, sir?
Well, we went down to the people. You know, our campaign was predicated on retail campaign. So we tried as much as possible to interact with the voter direct voter contacts. And in so doing, you are able to get the views or the concerns of the voter or to explain. Sometimes they got wrong misconception about certain things even the government may have done, but yet it may not be known to them. So the retail campaign, and then we were able to get the support of the party machinery, and then volunteers, the V20, who came and joined the campaign, went to various homes to put the manifesto, the good things that Nana Addo Akufu's administration has done since 2017 to the voters direct.
I see, but 51%, some say not good enough, considering 2016 performance. What perhaps, in your view, do you think worked against the NPP in this year's election?
We set an objective, two objectives. One is to win first round. Okay, that has been achieved. The second one of a gap of over 1 million, 1.5 million was not achieved. We will go and sit down, do a postmortem, and look at things we may not have done properly.
But what perhaps do you think you didn't do properly?
The management of the parliamentary primaries is a worry that we have to look at. I think it's one major area of concern that we have to look at. So we will look at it.
All right, thank you very much. So Peter McMeno, the campaign chairman or coordinator for the governing NPP, has attributed the decline in their figures for this year's election. I'm talking about the percentage. 2016, they secured over 53%. Now they have about 51%. And he believes that the key cause perhaps might be how the party handled the parliamentary primary. So just a while ago, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission declared Nana Addo Akufu winner of this year's 2020 presidential election. I am Kwesi Parker Wilson reporting from Electoral Commission.
Please ensure that there is no one in front of the podium, please.
Live here on your election headquarters, live on Joy 99.7 FM, live on the Joy News channel, live on our Facebook channel, also on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. It is done, Winston. Finally, the declaration of the results has been made, and we're ready to, I guess, look into the post-declaration issues.
Exactly, Evans. Finally, the Electoral Commission, the body mandated by law to declare winner in the country's presidential elections, has declared Nana Addo Akufu as president-elect, polling 6,730,413 votes.
So that's what you see there, 6,730,413. That's 51.595, so 51.6%. If we could put it that way. Have you heard that number before? Yes, you did. You had it in our projection. We have 51, just a little over 51% recalled it for the incumbent president there, and bullseye again, right on point with our projection. JM comes in second place, loses it
with 6,214,889 votes.
And he's again, as we called it again,
47.3% thereabout. That's the NDC's presidential candidate, former president of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. So that's a margin of 550.
I took an interest in that because in the end, Jean Mensah did the same analysis we did, right? We said, well, at that time, we were still left with, if I'm not mistaken, five constituencies. And we said, even if you give, I mean, we used the 10 out. And I don't know if I had a 10 out this year. We used a 10 out of 78%. I need to clarify that what the official 10 out is. But we said, using the 10 out of 78, based on that, even if you give everything else to John Dramani Mahama, he will still not catch up.
Yeah.
He will make any ground to cross 50% plus one. And so same G Mensah calculation, because he says that's the margin there. Because I've written there for you Techiman South.
Exactly, because according to Jean Mensah, the results from Techiman South are being disputed. Now they have a vote of 128,000, and that margin cannot cause a difference.
Okay, so that's Techiman South there. And so this declaration is minus results from Techiman South because of the issues with it. And so she had to put that in context. Like, even if you give all the Techiman South registered votes to JM, John Dramani Mahama, he will still not make up ground to cross 50% plus one. And that's why you have Nana Addo Akufu winner again of the presidential elections. Now, key thing to watch. We want to go to the Electoral Commission. This is Kumasi on your screens. See, overwhelming dominant headquarters in terms of votes for the MPP Winston. Okay, back to the Electoral Commission headquarters. From what our drone shots now, giving you a view of the Electoral Commission headquarters. What we can report, though, Winston, is that it appears the NDC supporters have now dispersed by themselves.
Well, so the NDC supporters were urging the Electoral Commission to declare the results, and once the results have been declared, you would expect them to actually leave the Electoral Commission, because you were saying, declare the results. The results have been declared. Your request has been granted. And since that has been granted, they've done the right thing. I mean, I saw them leaving earlier. They've done the right thing by moving away from the Electoral Commission. It only goes to confirm what we suspected earlier, that these persons were just there, because the Electoral Commission had promised that they were going to be declaring results after 24 hours. After the closure of polls, and that's what they wanted the Electoral Commission to do. Now that the results have been declared, sadly for them, their candidate is lost, but they've hesitated peacefully, and the only winner in all of this is Ghana.
In fact, it's true, Winston. The only winner is Ghana. You can see 4 different live feeds for you. One of them is the Electoral Commission headquarters, where our drone is still flying and giving you a view of the situation. Now we are in Ashanti region, also in the bottom right corner, where there's jubilation on the streets of Kumasi. Then we are, of course, in the top right corner. We are at the residence of the the president-elect.
Yes,
the president-elect, Akufu, and the sage is dead. We're expecting him to give his victory speech. Now, Winston, we need to note this, that he and his entire team were cramped up in a small room in his office, and we're watching Joy News.
Exactly.
Joy News was beaming onto the screens there for the president and his vice to watch as they waited for Jean Mensah to declare. If I watch Jean Mensah declare the results, and as I said to you, the most powerful man in Ghana was watching analysis when we were talking to him about all the things that he had done.
When we were telling him what he has to do, with the parliamentary situation.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll pick a thing or two.
He may have called the formula MP. Was it you who did that? When you give that advice, right? You should call him.
You should call him.
Yeah, okay.
Call him and talk.
Yeah, thankfully he watched you. He may have put in the call there to him. So you can see the scenes there jubilation for the NDC, for the MPP supporters across the country. That if you are just joining us a few minutes ago, Madam Jim Mensah, who is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, just finished declaring the results of the 2020 elections, and the numbers confirming what we projected way early in the day. Nanado 6.7 million votes, representing 51.6% bullseye when it comes to our projection. JM 6.2 million votes at 47, just over 47 percent there. Again, bullseye. Difference of 515,000. Nana has won.
Nana has won, and talking about the numbers, when we were projecting, the margin was over 515,000, but of course that was because we had 5 constituencies left. And in Kumasi, as expected, they're jubilating. But Evans, you heard Peter McMahon talk about what they believe may have affected them, and he talks about the conduct of the party's primaries, and that's one important thing the party should look at. But I'm sure, for now, they'll be very excited. They've won the election. You can celebrate, and after the celebration, after everything, you can sit down and begin the stock taking.
I want now to cross over now to our studio 997 for some further analysis. My colleague Gifty and Apia and Raymond Appa are both standing by. What we await now is the president's formal acceptance speech from his residents. When that is ready, we'll bring that to you live. Elton Brobe is there for us. Winston, stand by. Gifty and Raymond will chip in now with what is unfolding across the country on the back of that declaration. Hello, Gifty. Okay, we'll bring in Gifty and Raymond shortly on this. As we observe what the pictures coming in from across the country, this has been a closely fought race, Winston. And in the end, it came down to 500,000 votes.
Exactly, and who would have imagined that after a loss of almost 1 million votes, the NDC could repackage, bring the same candidate, and make the election this close.
Yeah,
500,000 votes is not the almost 1 million votes by which they lost. And the issue is now, if John Mahama lost by almost 1 million votes, and there's a new government, that campaigned on free SHS, campaigned on the economy, the government comes in, has delivered on some of these promises, and yet John Mahama is able to push it this far. Indeed, I think the NDC should pat themselves on the shoulder and say, we fought a great fight.
Even more so because of what you see happen, they may have done in Parliament. I want to bring in now, I see Samson Lada Yinini, who is standing by with the other colleagues, Gifty and Raymond.
So Samson was just giving us his thoughts on what has happened so far. It's been a long wait indeed. We haven't slept much here at the election headquarters, and Samson was just commenting on that, Samson.
Right. So good that it has come at this time, particularly as, tensions were beginning to rise higher. And like Elton said a while ago, people were sitting on tenterhooks. Now, there is one thing that I like to watch, and the thing that I watch that makes me very proud to be part of the election headquarters team here at Multimedia is that consistently, for the over a decade that we have been doing this, you cannot fault the precision with which we do it. And so I like anybody to pick the projection we did, or go to my Joy Online and look at the projection, how it was done, and compare the figures with what the Electoral Commission has done. It has been like this consistently. Either we were on an occasion where we were calling the elections for the NDC, or we're calling the elections for the NPP. And at each time, the response that we get from where we sit, the template, once again, is the same.
It's been pretty consistent, because if you call it for the NDC, the NPP will come at you. If you call it for the NPP, the NDC will come at you. And
if you're calling it for the NDC and you're having a discussion and you're smiling, some people will get angry. And then if you're doing it the same thing for the NPP and you are smiling and doing it as if you should be frowning while you do your job, then some people will get angry. But it's all part of it. It's good that this has been done, but there's one thing that I also note at this very time. The one thing I note, which is very central, is that the supporters of the NDC who muster in such huge numbers this afternoon at the precincts of the Electoral Commission have, it does appear, on their own decided to leave. They went there, and initially you could see how the expressions from some of them, but what we have to thank God for is that they were very peaceful. We don't have any report yet that they misconducted themselves, and they have left.
Okay, perhaps we can give the security agency some credit as well for the way they also managed it. So it looks like it was a two-way affair.
They were in their numbers.
Yes, exactly. So the way the security agencies managed the crowd and the way that the crowd comported themselves. But we'll
you
find
saw
out
the security officers actually engaging them, speaking with, talking to them, instead of using brute force.
The usual, you know, Right, Raymond, let me take your own preliminary thoughts. I mean, for Samson, it's about the precision with which election headquarters has done the job over the period, and about how the crowds that amass at the EC headquarters comported themselves throughout. I want to find out what is it for you? What is standing out now that the die is cast?
That once again, we have gone through a process that cemented the fact that when it comes to elections, we can do it, we can conclude it, we can actually do it without having the difficulties that sometimes even developing countries will have. And we have done so with such strength and somewhat believe in our systems that now it's becoming obvious. And I'm taking on two fronts nationally, that Ghana can be trusted to manage these situations, regardless of the uncertainties that may surround it, and regardless of the fear that people may have and think that, well, we may degenerate along the line because of the stakes involved in this election. Let's not forget, this is one very tough election that we're supposed to go into. It's an election that the president, after contesting since 2008, got the opportunity for the first time to be president. There's no way he was hoping to be a one-term president. Indeed, in his tradition, if you take the Buzia period where basically the period was truncated, this is the second time they are having a president from that particular tradition going for a second term. And it was important to Akufu himself because of where he has come from. And the fact that his father was the ceremonial president of the period during Buzia's time. So having one term or being there for one term would have been very problematic to him as an individual. And it was important. On the other side, check former President John Dramani Mahama. He, and sometimes his kind of tenor is misconstrued to mean, for John Dramani Mahama, he only continued and finished an unexpired term of J.E.A. Mills. So he wasn't the president of the Republic of Ghana in the year preceding 2012. He became president and had his actual first term from 2012 to 2016. So he's also been there for a term, except that many thought that within that period, we could have him being judged by the period the NDC had been in power, which was from 2009 to 2012 and 2012 to 2016, an 8-year period. So he was not in any way willing and happy with having to be a one-term president. So beyond everything, these are issues that really played strongly, and the parties were very much interested in making sure they secure this victory. And if you spread it along, now we know that
between 1992 and 96 was President Rawlings. Then Kufuor came in 2000 and also took the 8-year period. The next 8-year period was for the NDC. Was it going to be that the NPP is the first in this republic to have a 4-year term and a 1 term within that particular space? So if you're just looking at the on these alone, it was bound to be a very interesting election. When we started voting, frankly, I didn't get the impression that the stakes were that high when we started voting. When the results started trickling in, I got the impression that we were heading towards very interesting elections along the line. And the parliamentary picture made it even more interesting. Now, let me come to the fact, and the other cementing point is that, one, we've proven here on the election headquarters that indeed, once again, if you want a trusted source for information and also proper coverage of elections, the people who will not actually play games with and put their integrity on the line and do some other things with the election, this is the place to come to.
Right.
And
I just want us to take a look at what's happening right now. That's the president's residence.
oh, I
At the
see.
moment, yeah, right there is the president's residence. They mounted a podium. He's supposed to speak. I'm wondering what you expect to hear from the president on this particular stage at this point in time. Maybe I should come to something for that one. What are you expecting to come out from what we're watching on the screen right now, the president's residence?
I am thinking what he's thinking now is that the wish and desire that before he begins to speak, President Mahama would have called him.
Okay.
Because that is the most important. You have seen leaders of the smaller parties, some of very insignificant guys already there. Some of them started yesterday indicating concession to him. But of course, he knows that they don't amount to anything because some of them haven't made even a 0.00, mark. So the most important, as we know, this Addo is either MPP or NDC. So what will be running through his mind this moment is hoping that he will receive that call
From Mr. Mahama.
From President Mahama, saying, look, we may also have some issues with some of the results, but I concede, pending whatever. But it doesn't look like that is going to happen. And why is that so? As they signed the summary forms, results summary forms, we have just been informed that the NDC was not around to sign them. So once the presidential process is over, you have the presidential regional result coalition form, which will be signed by the regional coalition officer. Then you would require that one is known as the Form 11. Then there's a Form 12. It is the Form 12 that you require the party's representatives to also, or the representatives of the candidate to also endorse after the valid votes and everything has been duly done. Then when that is done, there is a Form 13, which is the Declaration of Presidential Results form, which is for Jean Mensah to sign to say that the results are sealed. They are done. This is what they are. Then after she has done so, then there's also the requirement for the representative of the counting agent of a candidate to also do what? Endorse them. If they do, if they are refusing, they are supposed to indicate why they are refusing. So I was hoping that if they were not doing it, in the event that they were not doing it, they would rather do and indicate why they are not doing so.
But do we know for sure that they haven't signed?
Because that's what the reporter who is right there was telling us. And we know ahead of, before now, that there are agents there, the President Muhammad's agents there, more particularly Dr. Michael White Pesa. He has told us that they have issues with certain places, including Ashanti region and I think one other place. In due course, we will discuss some of the problems they have with some other place about recounting that was going on at the collation, recounting that was going on at the collation center, which they thought was unlawful. I would invite all of us to look at the law and to examine whether or not it is wrong to have recounting and not recollation at a collation center. But you see, he spoke about votes of ballots of about 390,000 from the Ashanti region that they are seeking to impugn. So that clearly would be the reason they would not want to be part of this process. But I am saying it may have been the best thing to do to rather, you see, you can do things on protest, which means you do not waive your right to take an action later on.
But you just sign up.
Yeah, so we can look at all of that. But beyond that, I expect him to say, well, he's won and he's happy about it. Thank his party people and everybody else. Thank Ghanaians and make a promise that he intends to be president for all. Whether indeed they do that, in fact, he will use, those words and phrases and try to rally everybody, to come along for his second term in office.
Well, right now we'll see a lot of jubilation ongoing. You can see on your screen something is happening in Bantama. A lot of people happy. The president's residence as well is late. We're on standby waiting to hear what he says. Raymond, what will be your expectation of an acceptance, if you like, speech from President Akufu?
I'm just looking at my time and it's actually 6:43. Yes, that is right. Now, the time that around the same time in 2016, it was 7:51 when the then president, John Dramani Mahama, called the then president-elect Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo to actually wish him well. 7:51, exactly on
the same day. No, not the same day. In terms of the way that particular election went, the timing on the day of declaration.
Yes, when it was declared. Right. Now, substantively, I'm expecting the president. Of course, this time he's not going to rehash some of the things that in 2016. He thanked a lot of people. From pastors through to security officers, through to people who have been known to be operatives during the PNDC period and all of that. And some of the pastors were interesting names you have heard in the process. Yes, journalists and all of the other security institutions. I think that regardless of how the president of the Republic of Ghana and his team will look at these results, there is some need for reflection. There is some need to actually know that if things remain the same and our electoral trajectory is to be followed, the path they are taking now might not lead to victory in the next election. If they want victory in the next election, there's a lot of things that would have to change. So he should understand that there is a country that more than 6 million did not want him to be president, and that he should actually give the rallying call that this should be a United States where we cannot see NPP and NDC differently. This should be a state where people will not be treated merely based on their political party affiliation, and that division will not be the way forward.
How real? Presidents. How much of a reality is in that?
See, there are two things. We are looking at a speech.
Yeah.
That you have to deliver.
And I'm coming in at this point,
Raymond, matter because
hang on, I'm coming in there with this point because you see, like you said, if you're not coming to take over as president for the first time, your language is pretty different.
Yeah.
But when you have been there and people have experienced your governance, they've experienced the other governance. Yeah. I mean, we already know what to expect.
Two things. You also have elections are moments of reflection. Okay. It's also virtually like a referendum on your governance. People have sent strong signals to you about the things they think you have not done well.
Right.
In your speech, going to your second term, and it was Lyndon B. Johnson who made the point that second terms are for legacies, and that you don't want your legacy to be the one that left a divided country, or the things that people complain about, you continued in that particular path. So for the president, I'm expecting, he does wonderful speeches, that's regardless. I mean, he will deliver all of those wonderful speeches. I'm expecting him to be delivering one of those that's going to unify the state, rather, identify that there has been problems that ought to be fixed across the board. And when he does so, even his opponents will not feel that they are living in a different state, and that the next 4 years is going to be a period for vindictiveness and other things that are associated with negative politics. So that's the kind of assurance I'm expecting him to put out there. Secondly, he can, and I know that some presidents tend to be, of course, you can't remove me from presidency, because after the second round, I can do whatever I want.
Because that's my last term.
That's true.
I mean, if we have to go by the trend of voting,
yes,
by Ghanaians.
Yes. No, I'm saying that that's his last step. President Akufu cannot contest again.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
so,
even for the party. Because if your party, as President Kufuor said, what was the expression again? That a messenger in a governing party
is far better than
exactly. So
the senior secretary of
so even if it's not me as president in the seat, it is still my party. And we know that in Ghana, the way we voted, it's unlikely that a particular party will have more than 8 years.
So a brilliant unifying speech is what I expect from him. And I also expect that beyond the speech, he and his people will sit down. There are so many things that have gone wrong in his first term. We can pretend that, oh, well, I mean, he won, so it means that there's an overwhelming endorsement. Don't get it wrong. If he really means to actually correct and have a proper legacy, he knows the things that ought to be done properly. You see, the thing with elections, or you go around. Sometimes when you sit in the Flagstaff House, you don't get as much information as going around.
Jubilee
when
House.
You go, yes, the Jubilee House.
When you sit, when you govern.
Yes, when you're the president at the top, sometimes you don't get as much information from the grassroots. When you go around in the campaign period, there are things you can't change within that period. But you hear a lot of people speak to you. They speak to you the realities on the ground. So the difference between what you perceive to be the reality and the actual reality on the ground becomes very clear to you. It is my hope that when you go into a new term, you are minded by these things so that you cement your legacy in a proper way. So that it's not become of you that, oh, of course, this thing happened under you. This also happened under you. This and other things happened under you. I remember, and one of the things I want to stick out there is that I remember when I had to put together a report about media freedoms over the period from the governments of the I was shocked as to how some very elements had deteriorated under this government, regardless of how people see it differently and the plaudits they will give the government. You cannot continue in that path. So those are the things that I expect deeper reflection going beyond the speeches for that to happen. That's if we continue in this path.
Yeah. Well, we're still waiting. As you can see, if you're watching, of course, there is a gathering in the president's residence. You could see that the stage is being set, obviously, for him to address the people and, of course, the nation. Once he starts speaking, we'll bring you that. And there's jubilation going around, but we're talking about what to expect in this very first speech now that the president has been reaffirmed. And Raymond, you're talking about a moment of reflection, taking a step back and saying the things that we could have fixed that we didn't fix, this is the time to fix it. Samson, I want to come to you and ask you if there are any specifics, and if I may, bring in, for example, the fight against corruption and the Martin Amidu factor. I mean, it was really murky getting to the end as we came into this particular election. Now, Martin Amidu is no longer the special prosecutor. How do you reckon going forward that the fight against corruption would look like under a second term for the Akufu administration?
I'd rather that we deferred that discussion to another day, maybe a week or two, or after he's been sworn into office. And I have a good reason for suggesting that, because presently, you want to say things that they will take note of. This very moment, nobody is taking note of anything.
Nobody will take note of it. It's all about the victory.
You know, a while ago, he was sitting in his home, sitting in his room, together with his party people, the elders, Mustafa Hamid and the rest of them, his wife, vice president, surrounded by these people, and they were watching this platform. Okay. They were watching Evans Spencer and Winston as they did what they had to do. This moment, they are out.
Okay.
They are not listening. They are not watching you. Because, as you said, the die is cast. Now, I am thinking that the party, like Raymond said, and he himself, will not be that excited at the outcome of things. You recall that even in this campaign, at a point, they had adopted that slogan that the NDC's campaign Atonsu. It's falling in the water, meaning it's dead, it's gone.
Yes, essentially.
And that President Mahama had nothing new, no word, no message to give the people. The results tell a different story that Atonsu.
True.
That in fact, it could have been a completely different story. Like in the sports broadcasters, they will say, things would have changed. In any case, as we say these things, let's be minded that the NDC has already said something. There's something I am inviting them to do. That, like they say, the name of the game is evidence. Yeah. At least they should share the evidence, or they should share the evidence so that people can follow what they are trying to say about what they say is the wrongs that have gone on, about the allegations of padding that they say has gone on in Ashanti region and elsewhere, where in excess of 390,000 votes, are supposed to be some alien votes or ghost votes that came in. So there is I would say you can give yourself the time to think that it is possible that if they do have the evidence, they may want to mount a challenge. Okay. And the challenge may result in something. Now, he's coming in now, he's thinking, they have confirmed from their side that they have 137 members of parliament.
The NDC or NPP,
right? That they have 137 members of parliament. The NDC continues to insist, since the NPP started saying this, that the NDC, have as many as 140. There was an issue with Savlugu. Then this afternoon we heard that the president has asked the party agent there, or is it a candidate, to sign onto that results on protest. Yes. To sign on protest. It is the signing of that actually paved the way
for the EC
to be able to go ahead. So now it means the NDC has that seat to themselves. Yes. Except that there's a question mark around it. And from what they are saying, there are 2 polling stations in question. And those 2 polling stations are where they have issues with the results. And they are likely to impugn them in court. And from listening to Godfrey Terme, if they got 1 polling station results annulled, the seat will come to them. Now, at least 33 incumbent New Patriotic Party MPs lost their seats. About 21 of them, we are told, are either ministers of state, or deputy ministers.
Yeah.
That aside, you have the 41 incumbent MPs who lost the primaries, earlier in the year. So, in total, the NPP is suspected to lose at least 70 8 MPs out of their 169 in the next parliament.
Okay, you want to go over that again so I can take note of that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I just want our listeners and our viewers to have it.
Parliamentary correspondent Joseph
Opoku
doing a good,
very, very good analysis, I must say.
So we have 113 MPs who are getting out of parliament. That's about 40%. 113 MPs. Out of that number, 33, at least 33, are incumbent MPP MPs who have lost their seats. About 21 of them are either ministers of state, or deputy ministers. That is aside the 41 incumbent MPs who lost their MPP primaries, earlier in the year. Meanwhile, we have 4 MPP MPs who are retiring. In total, the MPP will lose at least 78 MPs out of their 169 in the next parliament. That means about 50% of all MPP MPs are not returning. So you have new faces that are coming in. Now the casualty is what we have to keep in mind, 33 of them. On the other side, the NDC, at least 18 MPs lost. And that is aside the 10 MPs who lost their primaries last year. And 7 NDC MPs who are retiring. So you see, on the side of the NDC, the numbers are fewer. That means 35 current NDC MPs out of the 106 are not returning to parliament. And that means about 33% of all NDC MPs in parliament are not returning. We know of all the big losses that we have spoken about already. The MPP, lost some very, very, very big numbers, and that's what we put together to give us 33 of them. I think that would be a major concern, major concern, particularly that they can, at this stage, confirm 137, which is not majority. They are hoping, and it clearly will not be a difficult thing, that Andrew
let me just jump in there, Samson, and bring up, especially our listeners, what we see on our screens right now, which are videos coming from the president's residence. We can see the wife of the president, taking the stage. Actually, let's go there. Let's take you live there right now.
As well as the president-elect in the company of His Excellency the Vice President, who is also the Vice President-elect. Give him away! To give us a quick Christian prayer. Shall we pray? Father in heaven, maker of heaven and earth, and all that is in it, may your name be glorified this day. We thank you for the light of today. And we thank you for this, our assembly, and for all that you have endowed upon us. May your holy name be praised. Father, we thank you for the person you have given us, President of the Republic, and also now President-elect. We thank you for his Vice President, Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia. We thank you for their wives, the women you have given them to accompany them in accomplishing great things. May your holy name be praised. We thank you for all the faithful workers, all the faithful companions, all those who have struggled so hard to serve these men in the Flagstaff House, Jubilee House and beyond. That, Lord, this government will shine. May your name be praised. And mighty Father, at this moment, we thank you particularly for this sweet victory today. It's you who has done it, and we are praising your name for it. Lord, all their plans are in your hands. All the plans of the party, represented by the party chairman and secretary here right now, are in your hands. We pray that you glorify yourself in them, morning, noon, and night. And when all is said and done, may greater victories be achieved in the future. For we ask all these in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord, with thanksgiving. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I ask you all to resume your seats, and shall we have some silence here? Shall we have some silence here as we prepare to hear from His Excellency the President and now the President-elect? Shall we have some silence, please?
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, fellow Ghanaians, a few minutes ago, what was known by me, and indeed by many, many Ghanaians, was announced by the returning officer of the presidential election, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Jean Mensah. Nana Addo Akufu Addo, together with Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, have been given 4 more years by the Ghanaian people to do more for them. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. In our system, it is the Electoral Commission that has the constitutional responsibility of declaring the will of the people in an election. Prior to this declaration by the EC chairperson, I received personal congratulatory messages from some of my fellow presidential candidates in the election 7 December. I expressed my appreciation to them and thanked them for helping to ensure that the race was largely a keen, exciting contest of ideas, whose ultimate goal was the growth and development of Mother Ghana, as well as the improvement of the living standards of the Ghanaian people. Fellow Ghanaians, I must at the outset give thanks to Almighty God for His continued mercies, and for granting my party, the New Patriotic Party, and I, this all-important win. It has been a hard-fought one, which has resulted in an incontestable result, and we are duly grateful for how far He has brought us. We were confident at the beginning of the campaign that the considerable amount of work we had done since coming into office in 2017 would secure for us 4 more years in office. And the declaration made by the returning officer has set us on that path. For that, I'm extremely grateful to you, fellow Ghanaians, for this victory. I am deeply humbled again by your show of confidence, and I do not take this lightly. There could be that tendency for an incumbent president who has just secured a second term in office to, as it were, take it easy and relax because there's nothing more to lose or prove. I am of a different character. Just as I've been doing since January 2017, I give you my word that I will continue to work very hard to build the prosperous and progressive Ghana for which we yearn. The decisive margin of victory in this election constitutes for me an endorsement of the policies and programs initiated by my government and put before the electorate. And I'm determined to do all in my power to accomplish the task of this new mandate and thereby justify the confidence reposed in me. I assure you, fellow Ghanaians, that I'll do my best not to let you down. The period for campaigning is over, and the outcome of the election has been decided. The Ghanaian people, through the results, have made it loud and clear that the two parties, the MPP and NDC, must work together, especially in Parliament, for the good of the country. Now is the time for each and every one of us, irrespective of our political affiliation, to unite, join hands, stand shoulder to shoulder, and work hard to place Ghana where she deserves to be, a prosperous and dynamic member of the global community, making her own unique contribution to the growth of world civilization. My immediate task will be to continue with the process of reversing the effects COVID-19 has had on our economy and on our lives, and put the nation on course for full economic recovery and development. Before the pandemic struck, Ghana in recent years was one of the fastest growing economies in the world. I give you my word, we will regain that reputation. Fellow Ghanaians, I say a big aiko to the chairperson, deputy chairpersons, commissioners, directors, returning officers, electoral officers, and the agents of our respective political parties for delivering one of the best elections, if not the best, ever witnessed in our history, which has won universal acclaim. The Electoral Commission, even in the midst of the pandemic, has done a yeoman's job, and we can only urge them on to continue along the path and achieve even greater strides in future. The orderly, commendable, and peaceful conduct of Ghanaians on election day is to be widely applauded. The high rates of adherence to COVID-19 protocols on the day ensure that the exercise passed off safely. To the security services who ensure the peace and safety of the process, Ghana will forever be in your debt. Your role has been invaluable in preserving law and order. And lastly, but by no means the last, the praise of the nation goes to the media for the extensive coverage provided before, during, and after the conduct of the polls. I also say a big thank you to the domestic and international election observer teams that have been in our country for the period of the election for their concern. I condemn in no uncertain terms the isolated incidents of post-electoral violence in Ololodiodo and Terme that led to a few regrettable deaths. May their souls rest in peace. We must work to avoid the repetition of such events in future. I thank the national, regional, constituency, electoral area, and polling station executives, elders, and members of my party, the New Patriotic Party, and all the volunteer groups who canvass so effectively for us for their successful efforts. NPP supporters should understandably celebrate and jubilate, but desist from untoward acts. At the end of the day, despite holding different political views, we should all remember that we're all part of one family, one Ghanaian family, with a common overriding agenda, which is to oversee the growth and development of Mother Ghana. Let us continue to conduct ourselves with decorum and maintain the peace and stability of the nation, which is the envy of many around the world. To the Ghanaian people, I say that the work ahead is to advance further the peace, progress, and prosperity of our nation for all. And that is my solemn pledge to each one of you. The battle is the Lord's. God bless us all in our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And before Mr. President takes leave,